Welcome. Some of you are here live, and some of you are watching this back on YouTube. Either way, this one is for you. I run these every Thursday, and they are always free. My aim for the session is simple. I want you to leave with at least one insight you can go and use. If that happens, the session was worth it for both of us. So let's jump right into it. Your product is probably good enough. That is not what kills you. I want to start there because it is the opposite of how most of us spend our week. We polish, we ship, we fix the thing that annoyed one user, and it feels like progress. And to anyone joining, welcome. Can you please mute yourself? I would really appreciate it. Thank you very much. So it feels like progress. Meanwhile, the actual gap is that almost nobody knows we exist. Tonight is about closing that gap with one decision instead of 5. My name is Charles. I have built 4 companies of my own and sat with a lot of founders in this exact spot. And I have never once seen someone win by being present everywhere at 20%. Quick promise, right? You will walk out with 4 things. 1 channel, chosen for a reason so you can say out loud. A test small enough that you can run it yourself in under 20 hours. 1 number written down in advance that decides whether the channel stays or goes. And a rule for when switching is genuinely the right call, because sometimes it is. Roughly 40 minutes from me, and then plenty of time for questions at the end, and please do use them. The questions are usually the best part of these sessions because somebody asked the thing everyone else was too polite to ask. No. Here is the claim, and I want to be honest that it is a claim rather than a law of physics. Too many startups die from no distribution. This is not new thinking. Peter Thiel wrote a version of it in 0 to 1. That poor sales rather than a bad product, it is the most common cause of failure. What I can add is what it looks like up close, because I have had this conversation hundreds of times now. The pattern is almost always the same. A founder shows me something genuinely decent. It works. A handful of people use it. 1 or 2 of them love it. Then I ask how new people find out about it, and the room goes quiet. Or I get a list. LinkedIn, a bit of cold email, a newsletter that went out twice. There's a Reddit account, an ad account with some money spent in March. None of that is a channel. That is 5 hobbies. And I understand why it happens, because product work rewards you immediately. You fix a bug, the bug is gone. You feel competent. Distribution punishes you for weeks before it pays. You send 50 emails and get 1 polite no. That feels like failure. So you go back to the code where you feel useful. The result is a graveyard full of good products with lovely websites that nobody visits. I have contributed to it myself, which is why I'm comfortable saying that. So the question for tonight is not, how do I get more visibility? It is narrower and much more useful. Which single channel am I going to be genuinely good at? And how can I cheaply find out whether it is the right one? Let me define the word before we build on it, because it gets used loosely. A channel is a repeatable way that strangers find you. There are three parts to that. First, repeatable. So you can do it again next week without a new idea. Strangers. So your network does not count. And find you. So it ends with someone who did not know you now knowing you. On the left are things that pass. Outbound email to a list you defined on purpose. Posting in one place on a schedule. One paid platform with one offer. Partners who already sit in front of your buyer. Answering questions in one community where your buyer already goes when the problem bites. On the right are the ones I hear called channels every week. Having an account somewhere is not a channel. It is a login. Telling your friends is not a channel. It is your friends, and they will be lovely about it and never buy. A launch is not a channel because you cannot do it again on Tuesday. And one good week is not a channel either. It is weather. That last one catches people a lot. Because, okay, a post did well. 60 people looked at the site, 2 signed up, and the conclusion is that the channel works. And the next 4 posts do nothing. And nothing broke. There was never a channel. There was one good day. The test is simple. Could you write down exactly what you would do every week for the next 12 weeks? And could someone else follow it? If yes, it is a channel. If the answer is more or less, show up and see what happens, that's not one yet. And it will not carry your growth. Before the method, let me be fair about why we all do this. Because the spreading is not stupidity. There are 4 honest reasons. First, coverage feels like safety. If you are on every platform, nobody can say you missed the one that would have worked. You're everywhere. It is the same instinct that makes people apply to 30 jobs daily and badly. Second, starting is genuinely fun, and month 2 is genuinely boring. Setting up a new channel has that lovely fresh notebook feeling. Week 7 of the same outbound sequence has no fresh notebook feeling at all. And that is exactly the week it starts working. Third, from the outside, every channel looks promising because you only see the winners. You see that founder whose posts do numbers. You do not see the 2 years of posts nobody read. Fourth, and this is the uncomfortable one, doing a bit of everything hides the result. If you run 5 channels badly and none of them works, the story is that growth is hard. If you run one channel properly and it does not work, you have to look at your offer or your buyer or your price. Spreading thin protects us from clear answer. I want to be gentle about this because I have done all four. The point is not that you have been lazy. Most founders I meet are working far too hard on far too many fronts. And here's the practical cost. Every channel has a floor. This is an amount of repetition below which it produces nothing at all. Cold email below a certain volume tells you nothing. Posting once a fortnight tells you nothing. If you split your hours across 5 channels, you land under the floor on all 5, and you get no signal from any of them. You did the work, you just cannot learn anything from it. This shape is the whole argument for depth. So let me walk you slowly through it. Every channel starts flat. Your first cold emails are badly targeted, and the subject line is too clever. Your first post explained the wrong thing to the wrong people. Your first ads point at a page that does not answer the question the ad raised. This is normal, and it is not the channel failing. It is you being new at it. Then somewhere along the flat part, things starts to bend. You learn the 2 sentences that make your buyer reply. You learn which of your posts gets someone to message you rather than just like it. You learn the one objection that comes up every single time, and you start answering it before it is asked. None of that arrives by thinking harder. It arrives from repetition. That teal dot is where almost everyone quits, and it sits just before the bend. Not because they are weak, but because week 6 looks exactly like week 2 on the numbers. And something new is always available and always more appealing. Now, put that shape next to the person running 5 channels. They never get past that flat part on any of them. 5 flat lines. Then the honest conclusion is that none of this works, when the truth is that none of it was giving enough repetitions to tell them anything. One channel done for long enough to bend beats 5 channels held permanently in their worst phase. That is not a motivational statement. It is just arithmetic on your hours. And there is a compounding thing too. Depth builds asset, a list you own, a reputation in one room where people now recognize your name, a sequence you have rewritten 9 times that you know works. None of that transfers when you hop, which is why hopping resets you to flat every single time. So, quick one. And this is anonymous in the sense that I cannot see most of you anyway. How many channels are you actively running right now? Not accounts you own. Things you did something on in the last 2 weeks. Put that number in your mind. 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, or more. I want to make it clear that high numbers are not a confession. It usually means someone told you that you should be everywhere, and you believe them because it sounds responsible. Hold on to your number, though. At the end, I'm going to ask you to pick one. And the bigger your number, the more this next part will feel like a relief rather than a restriction. Here's the whole method on one slide. And then we'll take each step properly. Step 1, shortlist. You cut everything down to 3 candidates. 3 candidates. And the cut is made from where your buyer already spends attention, not from where you feel comfortable. Step 2, test small. One cheat test per candidate, with the number of attempts and the deadline fixed in advance so the test cannot quietly go on forever. Step 3, read the evidence. One number per channel, written down before you start, compared honestly afterwards. Step 4, go deep. 90 days on the winner and nothing else, which is the step everybody skips and the only one that actually produces growth. Then at the end, I will give you the switch rule, because committing does not mean marrying a channel that has stopped working. 4 steps, and the first 3 exist mostly to make step 4 survivable. If you can only remember one thing tonight, remember that step 4 is where the money is. Step 4 is where the money is. Step 1, shortlist 3 candidates. A shortlist, and shortlist them from the customer rather than from yourself. The failure mode here is picking the channel you like. Founders who enjoy writing decide the answer is content. Founders who hate rejection decide the answer is anything except outbound. I have watched people spend a year on a channel that was never going to reach their buyer because it was the channel that suited their personality. Your preference is real, and it matters for whether you will actually keep going. But it is a tiebreaker, not the criterion. So start with 3 questions. First, where does your buyer already go when this problem bites? Not where they hang out generally, where they go when the pain is live. Somebody whose invoices are late does something specific in that hour. Somebody whose team keeps missing deadlines searches for something specific. That moment is a channel with a queue already in it. Second, who already has their attention and it is not you? Newsletters they read, communities they trust, tools they already pay for, consultants they already listen to. Borrowed attention is usually the fastest thing available to an early company. And it is widely underused because it involves asking people for things. Third, and this is one that it usually gets skipped. Where did your first users actually come from? Go and look. Not your guess, the real answer. Even if it is only 11 people, there is almost always a pattern in there. And it is almost always duller than the plan you had. Then cut to 3. 3, not 1, because you're not choosing yet. You're choosing what to test, and not 7, because you're going to run a real test on each of these, and you have a limited number of hours in your week. Write the 3 down where you can see them. If you cannot narrow the 3, that usually means you do not yet know who the buyer is. And that is a different session, and honestly, a more urgent problem. 2 questions to run over your 3 candidates, because they cut faster than any framework. Question 1, can I reach these people here again next week without asking anyone's permission? Some channels you control. You can send more emails tomorrow. You can post again on Thursday. Others need a yes from somebody first. A partnership needs the partner to agree. Getting on a podcast needs the host. An event needs the organizer to pick you. Permission channels are not bad. Some of the best growth I have seen come through partners, but they run on somebody else's calendar. And you, at your stage, the difference between a channel you can push on Tuesday and one that needs 3 yeses first is the difference between learning something this month and learning something in autumn. Question 2, will I honestly know within 4 weeks whether this is working. Some channels give you signal quickly. 50 well-targeted emails tells you something in 10 days. Some are structurally slow. Search takes months. Community trust takes months. Anything that depends on a sales cycle longer than your test cannot be tested inside your test. If the honest answer to question 2 is 3 months, park that channel. Not forever, just park it. Because right now you need information faster than that to stay alive. Run both questions over your 3 candidates. Usually, one candidate quietly dies here, which is useful. And you should replace it rather than dropping to 2. And if all 3 of your candidates fail question 2, that is genuine finding rather than a dead end. It means your growth is going to be slow no matter what you pick. So plan your runway around that instead of being surprised by it in November. Step 2, a test written down before you start on 5 lines. I'm going to give you the lines and then explain why the last one matters most. You're seeing the 5 lines. Channel, one of your 3, right? Write the channel. Name specifically, not social media, not outbound. Outbound email to operations managers at logistic companies with 20 to 200 staff. Specific enough that someone else could go and do it. Attempt, a number of repetition, not a length of time. 40 emails, 15 posts, 25 community answers, 6 partner conversations. Repetitions matter because channels have a floor. And a test that sits under the floor is not a test. It is a rehearsal. Deadline, a date. 2 weeks is usually about right. 4 at the outside. A test with no end date becomes a permanent, low-grade activity that you feel vaguely guilty about for 6 months. The one number. What are you counting? We will spend a whole slide on this because it is where most tests go wrong. And then my prediction. Before you send anything, write the number you expect. 40 emails. I expect 4 replies and 1 call. That last line is the one people leave out. And it is the difference between a test and an activity. Without a prediction written in advance, whatever happens will feel encouraging. 2 replies out of 40 and no calls? Well, one of them was quite warm. You will find the story because we all do. Humans are magnificent at building a positive narrative around a disappointing number, especially when the alternative is admitting the channel is wrong. With a prediction written down, the comparison does the work for you. You said 4 replies and 1 call. You got 1 reply and no calls. That is a quarter of what you expected. And now you're having a real conversation with yourself instead of a hopeful one. 1 page, 5 lines, 1 test per candidate. If you cannot fill in all 5 lines, you're not ready to start. And the missing line is usually the 1 number. 4 rules on how a test should sit in your week, because a test you cannot afford is not a test. Hours, not euros, hours. Early on, the currency is your time. Budget 20 hours across the whole test and be honest about it. If a channel needs 3,000 euros before it tells you anything, it is not a candidate for a company at your stage. However well it works for someone with a marketing team. 2 weeks, 4 at most. Long enough to get past your own beginner mistakes. Short enough that the answer arrives while it is still useful. Anything over 4 weeks and the test starts competing with the business rather than serving it. One person runs it. The same pair of hands for the whole test. Consistency is what makes the result readable. And swapping people mid-test means you learn nothing about the channel and quite a lot about the two people. And one test at a time. One test at a time. Right? This is the one people argue with. So let me put it plainly. If you run 3 tests simultaneously with one pair of hands, you will do all 3 at about a third of the required standard. Land under the floor on all 3 and conclude that nothing is working. 3 bad tests take the same 6 weeks as 3 good sequential ones and produce no information at all. The only exception is when the tests genuinely use different hours from different people. If your co-founder is running partner conversations while you run outbound, that is 2 tests. Fine. 1 person, 1 test. The comfort here is that this whole thing costs you 6 weeks and no money to have a real answer about all 3 candidates, compared with the 2 years people spend being vaguely present everywhere. That is a bargain. Step 3, the test is finished. And now you have to read it, which sounds easy and is not, because you have feelings about the results. Take the one number and put it next to the prediction you wrote down. 3 outcomes. You have a clear yes. You hit your number or you beat your number. Lovely. Go to step 4 and do not go looking for a better channel. This is the most common way I see founders throw away a win, by finding something that works and immediately wonder whether something else works better. Clear note, you came in well under and you know why. The buyer was wrong. Nobody in that room has this problem. The people you can reach cannot sign a contract. Cross it off with a 1-line note on why. Because in 5 months, you will forget and you will be tempted to try again. Then murky, which is where most tests actually land. You came in under and you're not certain why. Maybe the message was bad rather than the channel. Maybe you sent 30 when the floor was 100. Maybe you tested in the 2nd week of August. Murky is not a verdict. It is usually a badly sized test. So run it once more and change exactly one thing. 1, if you change the targeting and the message and the volume together, you learn nothing again and you have spent another 2 weeks. And here's the honest bit about murky. Most of the time, the fix is more volume rather than a cleverer message. Founders love the message hypothesis because rewriting is enjoyable and sending 200 more emails, it is not. Give yourself 1 repeat per channel. If it is still murky after that, treat it as a no for now and move on. Because at some point, the cost of finding out exceeds the value of knowing. And you have 2 other candidates waiting. One slide on choosing the number, because the wrong number is worse than no number. It gives you confidence in the wrong direction. So for outbound, count replies that turn into a call, not opens. Opens are a comfort blanket, and half of them are software opening your email. For content, count conversations started. Someone messaged you, someone replied with a real question, someone booked something, not likes. Likes are lovely and they pay nobody. I have seen founders with genuinely impressive engagement and no idea whether anyone reading could buy. For paid, cost per qualified conversation. not cost per click, not impressions. Qualified means somebody who could actually say yes. For partners, introductions that turned into a call. Warm words at the end of a meeting are not a number. A calendar invite is. For community, count people who messaged you first. That is the only signal that your answer landed hard enough to move someone. The rule underneath all of these is that the number has to sit on a plausible path to revenue, not revenue itself. Because at 40 emails, you may get none, and that is fine. But one step away from it. Here's the test. Say the number out loud, then say, so what? 14 replies. So what? 4 of them booked calls. So what? One of those could be a customer next month. Good. That's a number. Now try it with likes. 90 likes. So what? Nothing follows. That is not a number. That is weather again. And you cannot run a company on weather. Step 4, and this is the one that actually produces growth. 90 days, one channel, nothing new. Same channel every week without exception. 90 days is not arbitrary. It is roughly how long it takes to get past the flat part on that chart and find out what your channel does when you are competent at it rather than new to it. 12 weeks of the same thing, which sounds tedious because it is a bit tedious. And it is also the only part of this that founders consistently skip. Rewrite the message, not the channel. This is the important distinction. Going deep does not mean doing the identical thing 90 times. It means holding the channel fixed and improving everything inside it. Your opening line, who you target, the one objection you now answer up front because you have heard it 14 times. That iteration is where the band comes from. Build the asset the channel leaves behind, because every channel deposits something if you let it. Outbound builds a list and a sequence that works. Content builds an audience and a body of work that people find later. Community builds a reputation in one room where your name now means something. Partners build relationships that send people for years. That deposit is the real return. And it is exactly why you throw away every time you hop. And review on day 90, not day 12. Review on day 90. Put the date in your calendar before you start while you are feeling rational. You will want to review it on day 12 because day 12 is when it feels like nothing is happening. Day 12 is meant to feel like nothing is happening. One thing I will say gently. The founders who make it work are almost never the ones with the cleverest channel choice. They are the ones who were still doing it in week 10. That is genuinely most of it. The choosing is the part we enjoy talking about. The staying is the part that pays. Committing to one channel does not mean staying on that one. So here's the switch rule. Switch on evidence, never on mood. 3 reasons that count. 1, the channel hits its ceiling of volume. You have exhausted the reachable list. There are 400 companies in your niche, and you have contacted all of them twice. That is real ceiling, and it means the next growth has to come from somewhere else. 2, cost per customer rose 3 periods in a row past what the business can carry. 3 periods, not one. One bad month is noise. 3 is a trend. 3, your buyer moved. The community went quiet. The platform changed how it works. The audience just left. It's rare, but real. It happens. Now, the reasons that do not count, and I say all of this with affection because I have used every single one. You are bored. Boredom in week 7 is a signal that you are doing it properly. A competitor posted something impressive. You have no idea whether that channel works for them or whether they are burning money to look busy. One quiet week, weather. And somebody on a podcast said, this channel is dead. Every channel is declared dead every year by someone with the newsletters to sell. Cold email has been dead for a decade, and it is still paying people salaries. Here's the practical version. Write your switch conditions down on day 1, next to your 90 days review date. If none of them have happened by day 90, you carry on. That way, the decision gets made by the version of you who was thinking clearly, not the version of you at 11 p.m. in week 6 who has just seen someone else's growth chart. 4 traps before I let you go, and they are the 4 I see most. Confusing activity with distribution. This is the big one. You were busy all week on growth, and no stranger found you. Posting, tweaking the site, redesigning that pricing page, joining 2 communities, and lurking. All effort, no channel. The check is brutally simple. How many people who did not know you last Monday know you now? And by what route? Picking the channel you enjoy. Preference is a tiebreaker, never the criterion. If your buyer lives in one place and you have chosen another because it suits you, you have chosen a hobby with a business attached. Do notice your preference though, because a channel you hate is a channel you will likely abandon in week 5. And that is worth knowing before you commit 90 days to it. Quitting in week 3. Week 3 is the flat part. Nothing has gone wrong. If you go into it expecting week 3 to feel bad, it loses most of its power over you. Expected it to be bad. And running everything at 20%. You know this one now. Under the floor on 5 channels means no signal from any of them. And it costs you the same hours as being generally good at one. If you catch yourself in one of these, that is a good night, not a bad one. All 4 are cheap to fix compared with the alternative, which is finding out in a year that the product was fine and nobody ever knew. One action, and it takes about 20 minutes. Fill in these 5 lines for one channel, just one. Whichever of your 3 you would bet on tonight, because the betting instinct is usually decent and you can always test the others afterwards. Then do the part that makes it real. Send it to one person who will ask you about it. Send it, this card, send it to one person who will ask you about it. That can be a co-founder, a friend who builds things, or anyone who will say in 2 weeks, how did the 40 emails go? Written down and unsent is a nice intention. Written down and sent to someone is a commitment. And that is the whole thing. You don't need a growth strategy this quarter. You need one channel, 20 hours, and one number you wrote down before you started. Remember the number you thought about earlier? If it was 4 or 5, you're not about to do more work. You're about to do less work in one place, which is much better than the one you have been having. Sorry, it's a much better week than the one you're having. 5 lines, and then we'll jump to questions. 5 lines. A channel is a repeatable way strangers find you. Accounts, launches, and good weeks do not count. Start where your buyer already is, not where you are comfortable. Your preference is a tiebreaker. Write the number down before you run the test, because afterwards you will find a story for whatever happened. 90 days, 1 channel, nothing new. This is the step that produces growth and the step everyone skips. And switch on evidence, never on mood, on evidence. Ceiling, cost, or the buyer moved. Boredom does not qualify. If you only keep one of those, keep the 90 days one. Choosing well and quitting early gets you nothing. Choosing adequately and staying gets you a channel. And that is the session. So thanks for giving me your time, whether you were here live or you found this on YouTube. Next is questions, and that part stays in the room. It is not recorded, and it does not go on the channel. So to those present, ask me anything you would not put in writing. If you're watching this back, the comments are where I answer. Put your question there, and I will get to it.